There is a dark bucket sitting at the edge of a farm in Chester County, Pennsylvania. It is half full of water, a handful of rotting grass clippings, and one spoonful of a powder you can buy at any hardware store for $17. Every female mosquito within 100 yards of that farmhouse is flying toward that bucket right now to lay her eggs. Not one of those eggs will survive the next 24 hours. Noah Yoder farms 34 acres in Chester County. His wife keeps a half-acre kitchen garden. He runs 7 beehives along the south fence where the clover grows thick. He has 6 children who play barefoot in the yard from sunup until dark all through July and August. He has never signed a pest control contract. He has never had a spray truck come down his road. And the mosquito pressure on his farm in the middle of a Pennsylvania summer is a fraction of what his English neighbors deal with 2 fields over. This system costs under $20 to set up. It takes 1 afternoon. It requires about an hour of attention per month after that. It will not harm a single honeybee, butterfly, bird, frog, or child on your property. And the pest control industry has known about it for 4 decades and spent that entire time making sure you reached for the phone and called them instead. I drove to Chester County to see Noah's farm in person because I had read about this system and I did not fully believe the numbers until I stood there. It was a Thursday evening in late July. The air was thick, the kind of humid Pennsylvania summer evening where you expect to be swatting constantly. I stood on his porch for 45 minutes. His wife was tending the herb beds 20 feet away. His youngest 2 children were chasing each other across the lawn in bare feet until the light gave out. I did not get a single bite. His neighbor's yard, visible from the porch across a low fence line, had a citronella candle burning and 2 people sitting under it still waving their arms. Before I show you what Noah does and exactly how to copy it, you need to understand one thing. Because if you skip this part, nothing else works. Mosquitoes do not come from somewhere else. They do not drift in from the neighbor's pond. They do not blow over from the woods at the edge of your subdivision. Every single mosquito that bites you in your own backyard was born in your own backyard. In your own standing water. Water you walk past every single day without giving it a second thought. A female mosquito does not need a pond. She does not need a creek, a ditch, or a marsh. She needs water that has been sitting still for 4 days. That is the entire requirement. The rubber mat under your front door that holds a half cup of rainwater. The crease in the tarp covering your woodpile, the saucer under the clay pot of tomatoes by your kitchen door, the low corner of the yard that drains slowly after a storm. Every one of those is a hatchery. Every one of those is producing the mosquitoes that find you at dusk. One female lays up to 300 eggs at a time, in water you could hold in one cupped hand. The Amish understood this before there was a pest control industry to tell them otherwise. Noah's grandfather walked the property every Saturday morning in summer with an empty coffee can and tipped out every saucer, every tarp pocket, every bucket, every wheelbarrow that had gathered water during the week. He called it walking the fence. It was not a chore, it was the system. Drain the water before day 4 and the mosquito never grows wings. You do not need to kill anything. You just need to be faster than the clock. This is not unique to one family or one county. The USDA's Agricultural Extension Service published guides on source reduction as the primary mosquito control strategy for rural homesteads going back to the early 1900s. The principle has not changed. The mosquito has not evolved around it. Standing water is still the only place she can reproduce, and removing it is still the most effective intervention anyone has ever found. The pest control industry simply built its business model around the assumption that you would never bother doing it yourself. But there are places you cannot drain. The rain barrel by the back door. The low corner of the pasture that holds water for a week after a heavy rain, the cattle trough, the gutters of your house, which are almost certainly holding standing water in debris pockets right now, above your head, and producing mosquitoes that drop into your yard every few days all summer long. Most homeowners never think about the gutters. The mosquitoes do. For those places, Noah uses something called BTI. The full name is Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis. It is a bacterium that occurs naturally in soils around the world. Not a synthetic chemical, not something manufactured in a lab. A living organism first isolated from a desert pond in Israel in 1977. What it does is specific to the point of being almost hard to believe. When a mosquito larva, the tiny wriggling create, that hatches from the egg and lives underwater for a week before it ever grows wings. When that larva swallows a particle of BTI, it dies within 24 hours. That is all it does, nothing else. Not bees, not butterflies, not dragonflies, not frogs, not fish. Not your dog drinking from the puddle. The science behind the specificity is straightforward. The gut of a mosquito larva is alkaline in a precise and unusual way, and the toxin in BTI activates only in that exact chemical environment. A honeybee's digestive system is built entirely differently. So is a frog's, so is a human's. The mechanism that kills the larva simply has no pathway to operate in anything else. Germany has been using BTI in its public mosquito control program since 1981. They deploy it by aircraft over river floodplains every spring. The state of Maryland uses it, Pennsylvania uses it. The World Health Organization has reviewed it and classified it safe for application in drinking water sources. This is not a fringe product. It is the safest mosquito control tool on the planet, and it has been for more than 40 years. Here is something that matters for understanding why the system works as completely as it does. A female mosquito lives between 2 and 4 weeks in warm weather. In that time, she feeds on blood 2 or 3 times and lays 2 or 3 batches of eggs, each batch between 100 and 300 eggs. She does not range far. Research tracking marked mosquitoes consistently shows that most females spend their entire lives within a few hundred feet of where they hatched. The mosquito biting your arm on the back porch almost certainly hatched within 200 feet of where you are standing. That is your property, that is your water. You own this problem, which means you can solve it. The larval stage lasts between 4 and 14 days depending on temperature. In peak summer heat, as few as 4 days. That is how fast a clogged gutter or a forgotten bird bath converts standing water into flying adults. 4 days from egg to wings, which is why the weekly walk that Noah's grandfather taught him is not optional. It is half the battle, and it costs nothing but 5 minutes on a Saturday morning. You can buy BTI at any hardware store in the lawn and garden section, usually near the pond supplies. It comes in 2 forms, a granular powder sold as mosquito bits and a solid disc sold as a mosquito dunk. The bits dissolve quickly and are ideal for buckets and gutters. The dunks last about 30 days and are better suited to larger standing water, a rain barrel, a stock tank, a ditch that holds water after rain. A container of mosquito bits costs about $17 and will last one household the entire mosquito season. A monthly residential mosquito spray contract from a lawn care company runs between $60 and $90 per visit. Most companies recommend 6 visits a summer. You do not need to do that arithmetic out loud to understand the gap. Now here is what those spray trucks are actually putting down, because this is the part the industry does not advertise on the door of the truck. Most residential mosquito spray services use synthetic pyrethroids, bifenthrin, permethrin, lambda-cyhalothrin. These are broad-spectrum insecticides, which means they kill insects, not just mosquitoes. Every beetle in the mulch, every caterpillar on the fence post, every bee that lands on a treated surface within hours of application. The label on those products lists honeybees under organisms affected. It says so in plain writing. Every licensed applicator in the country has read that label. The company knows. The man pulling the hose knows. They spray anyway because the tool that does not harm bees costs $17 and does not require a service contract. The National Pesticide Information Center published a formal review of pyrethroid insecticides in residential use in 2009. It stated plainly that synthetic pyrethroids are highly toxic to bees and aquatic invertebrates, and that applications near gardens and flowering plants pose a significant exposure risk to pollinators. That review has been available to every pest control operator in the country for 15 years. It has not changed the standard service offering at a single major national franchise. The residential lawn care and pest control industry generated $176 billion in revenue in 2023. Mosquito control services account for roughly $11 billion of that. BTI has been EPA registered since 1983. In 4 decades of registration, it has never been included as a standard product in any major national mosquito control service package. Not because it does not work, because it does not generate a return visit. Think about what that means in practical terms. A $17 product that lasts an entire season and requires no licensed applicator, no truck, no equipment, and no follow-up visit is a product that the industry has every financial reason to never mention. The homeowner who discovers it stops calling. The homeowner who never discovers it calls EV. 6 weeks from May through September. 40 years of EPA registration, and it still does not appear on the service menu of a single major national franchise. That is not an oversight, that is a business decision. Noah keeps 7 hives. A neighbor 2 farms over keeps 4 more. Between them, they have used BTI on their properties for years. Neither has lost a colony to mosquito control. What Noah has lost sleep over is the spray truck that came through the development at the end of his road 3 summers ago and left dead bumblebees in the grass along the road shoulder for a quarter mile. He counted 11 in front of his own mailbox. 11 wild bumblebees in 50 feet of road edge, gone in a single pass. That is what the alternative costs, not just money, the living system of your yard. Here is the system Noah uses and the order he does it in. The first step is what his grandfather taught him. Walk the property, every corner, every container, every low spot, carry an old coffee can, the dog dish sitting outside. The wheelbarrow leaned against the shed with an inch of rainwater in the bowl. The cracked pot left in the garden corner. The bird bath that has not been changed in 2 weeks. The fold in the tarp covering the compost pile. Dump everything, turn over what you can. This step costs nothing and removes the problem at its root. Done once a week during mosquito season, it will reduce the mosquito population on your property more than any spray treatment you could buy. The second step is the bucket. Take a 5-gallon bucket. Dark colored, brown, black, dark green, dark red. Not white, not yellow, not anything bright. A female mosquito searching for a place to lay eggs is following instincts built over millions of years. She is looking for dark, still, shaded water. A bright white bucket in full sun does not read as safe habitat to her. A dark bucket tucked in the shade behind a fence post reads as exactly right. The color is the trap before the trap. Fill it halfway with water. Rainwater is better than tap, but either works. Add a handful of grass clippings or a few dead leaves. As those clippings begin to break down, they release the same compounds that decaying vegetation releases in a natural pond. The scent signature that tells a female mosquito this is a good place to raise her young. You are not making a swamp. You are building a counterfeit swamp. The most attractive piece of standing water on your property as far as she is concerned. Then add 1 heaping spoonful of mosquito bits across the surface. Do not stir. Let it float. Every egg laid in that bucket dies before it hatches. Every larva that does hatch from any egg that survives is dead within a day. The bucket becomes a trap that resets itself automatically. She comes to lay. The BTI is waiting. Here is the placement detail that matters most and that most people get wrong when they first try this. The bucket needs to be away from you, not next to the patio table, not near the garden gate you walk through every evening. Set it behind the shed under the hedge along the back fence line. You are drawing the mosquitoes toward the bucket and away from yourself. The bucket is not a decoration, it is a decoy. Position it like one. Place 1 bucket on each side of the house, positioned away from where you sit, eat, and where children play. You want to pull the mosquitoes toward the bucket and away from you. 3 to 4 buckets around the perimeter of a standard residential lot will cover the property. Every 2 to 4 weeks, add another spoonful of bits. That is the full maintenance schedule. For the rain barrel, the gutters, the low spots that hold water after rain, use the dunks. Toss 1 into the rain barrel on the 1st of each month. Crumble half a dunk and sprinkle it into the gutters. Most households have no idea their gutters are producing mosquitoes. Debris in the gutter holds water in pockets for 5 or 6 days at a stretch, and 5 days in August is more than enough. 1 crumbled dunk per month shuts it down. The third part of the system addresses the adults already flying. During the day, mosquitoes do not hunt, they rest. They sit on the cool undersides of leaves, inside dense shrubs, in the gaps of a woodpile, along the inside of a lattice fence, under deck boards. They wait for evening, for the temperature to drop and humidity to rise. That is when they emerge. And that is where you find them during the day when they are still invulnerable. Essential oils. Real extracted plant compounds, not fragrance. Cedarwood, rosemary, clove, lemongrass, peppermint, garlic. These have been used as insect deterrents across every continent for thousands of years. They work because they are the plant's own defense chemistry, concentrated and applied directly to the surfaces where mosquitoes rest. You can find these pre-blended as a spray concentrate at most hardware stores. Skip the hose end sprayer attachment it sometimes comes with. The S. Spray is too diffuse and depletes too fast. A pump-up garden sprayer, the kind you fill by hand and carry on your shoulder, runs about $40 and lasts years. Fill it 3/4 full of water, add the concentrate per the label instructions, shake well, and work your way around the property. Spray the underside of every shrub, the inside of every hedge, the back of the woodpile, the lattice around the porch, the eaves, and the gap under the deck boards. Hit those surfaces on a calm afternoon and the treatment holds for 2 to 3 weeks. After heavy rain, repeat it. Do not spray open blooms. Essential oil concentrates will not kill bees, but the strong scent discourages landing, and keeping pollinators away from flowers is the opposite of the goal. Spray structure, wood, and foliage. Leave the flowers alone. 1 afternoon a month. That is the full adult mosquito treatment. Between the weekly property walk, the BTI buckets, the dunks in water you cannot drain, and the oil spray on resting surfaces, you have covered every stage of the mosquito's life cycle on your property. The egg, the larva, the resting adult, the hunting adult. The entire cycle addressed without a single compound that harms anything you want to keep alive. Dusk, when the adults are moving and you are sitting outside, there is one more layer that Amish households across Lancaster County have used longer than anyone can remember. A small clay dish or an old tin can with a few nail holes punched in the side for airflow. A charcoal disc from the hardware store lit with a match. A handful of dried herbs laid over the coal once it catches. Rosemary burns slow and long. Sage produces a thin, steady smoke. Dried lavender, mugwort, yarrow if you grow them. The smoke from those herbs keeps mosquitoes out of roughly a 10-foot radius around wherever you are sitting. They will not fly through it. The compounds that draw people in are the same ones that drive mosquitoes away. It costs almost nothing. It harms nothing. It has been doing this job since before the country was founded, and it smells considerably better than the chemical coils sold at hardware stores that leave a synthetic haze over the patio all night. There are two more things worth knowing about because they belong to the living system of any well-run property, and they work alongside everything already described. The first is the bat. A single little brown bat consumes between 600 and 1,000 insects per hour during its evening hunt. It navigates by echolocation, locating targets in complete darkness with a precision no trap or spray can replicate. It eats moths, beetles, mosquitoes, and the soft-bodied flying insects that damage gardens and crops. And it hunts at exactly the same hour the mosquitoes emerge, dusk through the first hours of dark. Amish farms across Pennsylvania and Ohio mount bat boxes on barn walls as standard practice. Simple wooden boxes, 14 inches tall, on the south-facing side of a structure at about 15 feet to catch afternoon sun. It typically takes 1 to 2 summers for bats to move in. Once they do, they return every year from April through October. Nobody can count how many mosquitoes a bat colony eats across a summer, but properties with active bat roosts consistently show lighter evening mosquito pressure than comparable properties without them. The bats hunt the adults while the BTI handles the larvae, two layers of the same system working at different times of day. The second is the dragonfly. A dragonfly is one of the most precise predators in nature. Its capture rate on targeted prey exceeds 90%. More than 9 out of 10 attempts end in a catch. It hunts during daylight hours, which is exactly when mosquitoes are resting and most vulnerable to a flying predator. And the larval stage of the dragonfly lives underwater, in the same ponds and water features where mosquito larvae develop, and eats them there. If your property has any water feature, a small pond, a large container garden, a concrete basin, plant native emergent vegetation in and around it. Cattails, sedges, native rushes. These give dragonflies the structure they need to lay eggs and rest between hunts. You are not landscaping. You are building an ally. A property where bats are roosting and dragonflies are patrolling is a property under pressure from every direction around the clock. The BTI handles the larvae. The essential oil spray handles the resting adults. The bats handle the evening hunters. The dragonflies handle the daytime population. Stack those layers and the system largely runs itself. Now the part that should actually make you uncomfortable. Mosquitoes are not a nuisance. They are a public health problem. West Nile virus is present in every state in the continental United States and circulates silently through the bird population in your neighborhood right now, every summer, carried by the same mosquitoes hatching in the saucer under your porch planter. The CDC reports, though, dozens of clinical West Nile cases annually, and those are only the cases severe enough to reach a hospital. In roughly 1 in 150 infections, the virus penetrates the central nervous system. About 10% of those cases are fatal. Eastern equine encephalitis is rarer, but kills more than a third of the people who contract it. Worldwide, mosquito-borne illness kills more human beings every year than every other animal on Earth combined. More than all predators, all venomous snakes, all sharks, this is not about sitting comfortably on the porch. It is about what is breeding in your gutters. And the solution most of the country has been pointed toward: the monthly contract, the spray truck, the broad-spectrum application that does not distinguish between the mosquito and the pollinator is not the only solution. It is the solution that requires you to keep paying. It is not the solution that works best. Noah Yoder figured this out the way the Amish figure out most things. Not from a product brochure, not from a salesman at the door, from paying attention to what was already happening on the land and building a system around what actually worked. His grandfather's coffee can, his grandmother's herb smoke at dusk, BTI in the gutters, bat boxes on the barn, dark buckets behind the fence posts that the mosquitoes fly into and never leave. What strikes you when you spend time on a well-run Amish farm in summer is not what they are doing. It is what they are not doing. There is no chemical smell hanging over the yard. There are no dead bumblebees in the grass along the fence line. The honeybees are working the clover rows right through the evening. The children are outside. The garden is producing. The mosquitoes are somewhere else in a dark bucket behind a shed laying eggs that will never hatch. The system does not require special knowledge or special tools. It requires understanding where the mosquito actually comes from and interrupting that process before it completes. Everything else, the spray trucks, the monthly contracts, the fog machines on the back of pickup trucks, those exist to serve an industry, not to solve your problem. The total cost of this system the first time you set it up is around $60. Every season after that, less than $20 for the bits and dunks. That is not secret knowledge. It was never locked away. It was just never handed to you because the people who profit from the alternative made sure you reached for the phone before you reached for the coffee can. Drop your state in the comments and tell me what your mosquito situation looks like right now. Tell me if you keep bees or have a garden you are trying to protect. And if you put out a bucket this weekend, come back and tell me what happened. The people reading those comments are exactly the people this system was built for. The Amish did not invent this. They just never forgot it. Now you have it.